We all know that the United States was the first to develop nuclear weapons, but today, 9 nations across the globe have successfully built these tools of destruction. While some of these countries cooperated with one another, most followed a path fraught with espionage, betrayal, and absolute secrecy. Each of these nations has a story no less thrilling than that of the Manhattan Project, yet these stories are rarely told. In this video, we will track the timeline of these countries' race to possess this lethal weaponry, and we will shed light on other nations that nearly succeeded, as well as those that may soon join the list. But before we dive in, if you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. The story begins in 1938, when German scientists discovered nuclear fission, the ability to split the atom and release immense energy through a chain reaction. The following year, Albert Einstein warned the United States about the dangerous potential of turning this discovery into a devastating weapon. The United States became the first to create nuclear weapons through the secret Manhattan Project during World War II, in collaboration with Britain and Canada. Huge sums were spent to outpace Nazi Germany, which ultimately failed to develop its own weapon. Following Germany's surrender in 1945, America successfully conducted its first nuclear test, and President Truman informed Soviet leader Joseph Stalin of this lethal new capability. At the time, Stalin was already secretly developing his own program with the help of spies embedded within the American project, and he was infuriated that America had beaten him to the finish line. In August 1945, the United States dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan, ending World War II and ushering in the beginning of a global nuclear arms race. The Soviet Union was the second nation to possess nuclear weapons. Their interest began as early as 1941, after their scientists noticed the West's sudden silence regarding the publication of atomic research, leading them to deduce the existence of a secret project. After witnessing the destructive power unleashed on Japan, they redoubled their efforts to acquire the bomb. The Soviet program relied on a combination of their own indigenous research, the expertise of captured German scientists, and intelligence leaked by spies from the heart of the American project. Although there were initial doubts about the validity of the leaked data, they used it to verify the accuracy of their own findings. In 1949, the Soviets stunned the world by testing their first bomb, effectively ending American hegemony and officially marking the beginning of the Cold War arms race. Although Britain was a close ally of the United States and had contributed its initial nuclear research, the Tube Alloys Project, to be integrated into the Manhattan Project, the United States reneged on its promises after the war and monopolized the technology for itself. This betrayal prompted Britain to develop its own independent program, drawing on its previous expertise and its uranium stockpiles, until it successfully tested its first bomb in 1952. During this time, the race shifted to an even more terrifying level: thermonuclear, hydrogen, bombs, which rely on fusing atoms rather than splitting them, making them hundreds of times more powerful than the bombs America dropped on Japan. Despite warnings from scientists, the US developed this bomb in 1952, followed by the Soviets and then the British. It was only then, after Britain had proven its might, that America finally agreed to resume nuclear cooperation with them. France initially focused on peaceful nuclear energy in cooperation with the Israeli entity, but the Suez Crisis shifted the balance. President Charles de Gaulle realized that France would never be a fully sovereign superpower without possessing a nuclear weapon that granted it strategic independence from the influence of the United States and NATO. France developed its weaponry entirely independently despite fierce American opposition, relying on uranium extracted from its African colonies in Niger, Gabon, and Madagascar. Its scientists successfully conducted the first nuclear test in the Sahara Desert in Algeria in 1960, followed by a hydrogen bomb in 1968. China sought to possess nuclear weapons to deter the United States and initially relied on support from the Soviet Union. However, the ideological rift between Mao Zedong and Nikita Khrushchev prompted the latter to abruptly withdraw support, leaving China to continue its path alone. Despite major internal crises such as the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, China achieved a technical miracle. It utilized its discovered uranium stockpiles to detonate its first atomic bomb in 1964. Remarkably, it took only 32 months to follow this with a hydrogen bomb, achieving the fastest temporal leap in the history of global nuclear armament. The Israeli entity remains the most ambiguous case, following a policy of strategic ambiguity by neither confirming nor denying its possession of nuclear weapons. Its program began in the 1950s with secret French assistance to build a reactor in the Negev Desert. This raised the concerns of U.S. President John F. Kennedy, who demanded inspections. However, the Israeli entity evaded these through sham inspection tours designed to hide underground facilities. American pressure eased during the Johnson administration, and it is believed the entity completed its first bomb in 1967. The truth did not emerge globally until 1986, when Mordecai Vanunu leaked secret photos and documents from inside the reactor to the British press. In response, the Mossad used a female agent to lure him to Rome, where he was kidnapped, drugged, and returned for trial and an 18-year imprisonment. These leaks confirm that the Israeli entity does not only possess atomic bombs but has also developed thermonuclear weapons. India sought to acquire nuclear weapons to deter its two rivals, China and Pakistan, redoubling its efforts after its defeat in the 1962 border war with China. India used the cover of peaceful energy to import reactors from Canada and the United States while secretly developing its weaponry. In 1974, it conducted its first nuclear test, codenamed Smiling Buddha, in the Rajasthan desert. It was described as a peaceful nuclear explosion to avoid international backlash, yet the country faced widespread sanctions and condemnation for repurposing civilian reactors. Due to opposition from certain Indian politicians regarding the conversion of technology into ready-to-use warheads, the program progressed slowly and was not fully finalized until the 1990s. South Africa possessed one of the largest reserves of natural uranium in the world, supplying it to the United States, the United Kingdom, and France, mostly for power reactors, though it is likely some of it ended up in weaponry. Since 1948, South Africa had established its nuclear energy program, then shifted toward weapons in the 1960s and 1970s due to growing Soviet influence in the region and the fact that the apartheid regime had fallen into almost total international isolation. In 1977, South Africa established testing facilities in the Kalahari Desert and was on the verge of detonating a bomb, but a Soviet satellite detected the preparations and alerted the Americans. International pressure subsequently halted the test. In 1979, American satellites detected a double flash of light near the Prince Edward Islands, an event known as the Vela Incident. It is widely believed that South Africa allowed the Israeli entity to test its weapons there in exchange for nuclear research for its own program. By the 1980s, it possessed approximately 6 nuclear bombs, each roughly the size of the Hiroshima bomb. However, with the end of the Cold War and the approaching collapse of the apartheid regime, the state decided to completely dismantle its arsenal before handing over power. Designs were destroyed and enriched uranium was locked in a vault within a nuclear facility, after which the country announced its abolished program to the world. Despite getting rid of the bombs, the stored uranium continues to raise security concerns, particularly following a failed intrusion attempt at the facility in 2007. Pakistan sought to possess nuclear weapons following its defeat by India in 1971, which led to the secession of East Pakistan and the establishment of Bangladesh. At that painful moment, its prime minister uttered his famous words, "If India builds the bomb, we will eat grass or leaves, even go hungry, but we will get one of our own." When India conducted the Smiling Buddha test in 1974, the Pakistani race began in earnest. Abdul Qadir Khan, a Pakistani scientist working at a Dutch nuclear facility, leaked highly classified information regarding uranium enrichment and transferred it to his country, information that formed the cornerstone of the Pakistani nuclear program. China supplemented this with expertise, materials, and facilities to develop the bomb, as it saw the arming of Pakistan as a strategic interest in countering India. The United States turned a blind eye to Pakistan's nuclear ambitions due to its need for the country as an ally against the Soviets in Afghanistan. In 1998, India detonated 5 live warheads. Pakistan responded within weeks with 5 underground tests in the Ras Koh Hills, becoming the latest nation to officially join the nuclear club and the first Muslim country to possess such weapons. What distinguishes Pakistan is its explicit first-use policy, as it reserves the right to use nuclear weapons whenever it deems appropriate, even in the absence of a nuclear attack against it. This policy has proven effective so far. Indian officials have stated that Pakistan's threat of first use has weakened Indian responses in their various conflicts. In 2004, Abdul Qadir Khan, dubbed the father of the Pakistani nuclear program, confessed to illegally selling nuclear weapons technology to North Korea, Iran, and Libya, sparking a wave of global concern regarding the uncontrolled proliferation of this technology. North Korea stands as the ninth and final nation on the list to date. Its founder, Kim Il-sung, viewed nuclear weapons as an existential necessity to ensure the survival of his regime and to send a message of deterrence to South Korea and the United States. The Soviet Union assisted in establishing North Korea's first nuclear facilities for energy purposes and trained many of its scientists. However, both China and the Soviets rejected North Korea's repeated requests for help in building weapons. Consequently, the country began building its program independently, leveraging its vast domestic reserves of natural uranium, which provided true autonomy regarding raw materials. By the 1980s, the Americans realized that North Korea was diverting spent nuclear fuel into weapons-grade material. In the 1990s, the country signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, while secretly continuing its development, stalling and obstructing international inspections. In 1994, the United States offered light water reactors that produce peaceful energy but make weapons manufacturing difficult. The North Koreans initially agreed, but the deal collapsed in 2002 due to mutual distrust, as the U.S. accused North Korea of secretly enriching uranium in clear violation of the agreement. Following this, North Korea publicly withdrew from the NPT and pursued its program without restraint. In addition to initial Soviet assistance, it benefited from limited Chinese support and, most importantly, aid from Pakistan, as previously mentioned, which has been described as a decisive factor in developing its capabilities. In 2005, Kim Jong-il announced the possession of ready nuclear weapons, and in October 2006, the country conducted its first successful test, though experts estimated the explosion was not optimal. A second, much more powerful bomb followed in 2009, then another in 2013, and by 2016 and 2017, North Korea tested its first thermonuclear bombs. Several other countries attempted to develop their own nuclear weapons but eventually abandoned their efforts due to international pressure or a lack of resources. These include Argentina, Brazil, Sweden, Romania, Libya, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, Syria, Taiwan, and Japan. Some of these nations were very close to success, particularly Iraq, Syria, and Iran, each of which achieved tangible progress. However, their facilities were either destroyed by missile strikes or subjected to Israeli cyber attacks. Today, Iran is considered the closest to manufacturing a nuclear weapon according to many estimates. In this context, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has stated more than once that, without a doubt, if Iran gets the bomb, Saudi Arabia will follow. Saudi Arabia already possesses a nuclear energy program and has sufficient financial resources to convert it into a weapons program whenever it chooses. As for Japan, it is considered one of the most capable countries in the world to manufacture a nuclear weapon in a short time if it wished, as it possesses advanced nuclear technology and massive stockpiles of enriched uranium, though it currently maintains a firmly peaceful policy. Most of the world's nuclear powers store a significant portion of their weapons inside submarines that roam the depths of the oceans in total silence, representing one of the most potent forms of deterrence. Even if a nation's land-based launch facilities were completely destroyed, these submarines remain poised to retaliate, with no way to destroy them all at once. These are the countries that have completed the nuclear journey so far. Do you think it is only a matter of time before other nations join this list? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. We have reached the end of the video. Thank you for watching.